You gave them your time, you gave them your heart, you gave them your loyalty, and in return, they gave you silence, they gave you excuses, they gave you disrespect, and that was your answer. See, life has a way of showing you the truth, even when you don't want to see it. You may have been waiting for closure. You may have been hoping for an apology, for an explanation, for some moment of clarity that would ease your mind, but sometimes the only closure you need is the way they treated you. Because respect is not complicated. It's not a puzzle to be solved. It's simple. People who value you will make it known. People who care will show up. And people who don't, well, they'll make that known too, not with their words, but with their actions. And when someone disrespects you, when they belittle you, ignore you, take you for granted, that is all the closure you need. That is the universe telling you loud and clear, this chapter is over. Let's be real. Some people will never give you the apology you deserve. Some will never admit they were wrong. And you know what? That's okay, because you don't need it. You don't need validation from people who didn't value you in the first place. What you need is to walk away, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with wisdom, with peace, with strength. Because the moment you realize that disrespect was the answer you were looking for, you are free. Free from waiting, free from hoping, free from replaying old conversations in your head. You are no longer tied to what could have been. You are walking into what will be. And where you're going, only those who respect you, honor you, and appreciate you will have access. You sat there wondering, waiting, questioning if you should reach out one more time, if you should give them another chance, if maybe, just maybe, there was something you missed. But the truth was right in front of you the whole time. The silence, the excuses, the way they dismissed you, that was your closure. That was the answer. See, we expect closure to come in a conversation, in a heartfelt apology, in some grand moment where everything suddenly makes sense. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the only closure you get is the way they treated you. And you have to be willing to accept that. You have to be strong enough to stop searching for meaning in someone's mistreatment of you. Because disrespect is not an accident, it's a decision. A decision they made when they ignored your worth, when they talked down to you, when they made you feel like you were asking for too much just by wanting the bare minimum. That was them telling you exactly who they are. That was them showing you exactly how they see you. And if someone shows you they don't value you, why would you keep looking for answers in the same place that gave you pain? You don't need another conversation. You don't need closure from someone who never cared enough to respect you in the first place. The way they treated you was all the confirmation you needed. And once you see that, really see it, you stop waiting, you stop questioning, you stop giving people access to you who don't deserve it. You take back your power and you move forward. Respect is not complicated. It's not something that needs to be decoded or analyzed. It's either there or it's not. A person who values you will never leave you questioning where you stand. They won't make you chase them, beg for their time, or fight for a basic level of decency. Respect is given freely to those we value, and when it's absent, that absence speaks volume. You see, people show you what you mean to them, not in grand moments, but in the small things. The way they listen when you speak, the way they acknowledge your feelings, the way they make an effort to be present. It's in consistency, in effort, in making you feel seen and heard. And when someone disrespects you, when they dismiss your feelings, when they act like you don't matter, that's not a mistake. That's not them being too busy. That's not them forgetting. That's a choice to show you exactly where you stand in their life. The truth is, no one is too busy to be respectful. No one is too busy to acknowledge your worth. No one is too busy to value you if they truly care. People make time for what they care about. And if someone is showing you through their actions that you are not a priority, that's not a misunderstanding, it's a message. And it's one you need to listen to. When you stop making excuses for disrespect, when you stop justifying mistreatment, you gain clarity. You stop holding on to people who don't hold on to you. You stop accepting half-effort, empty words, and insincere apologies. You start seeing people for who they really are, not who you wish they would be. And that's when you realize you never needed to beg for respect in the first place. The right people will give it to you without hesitation. You keep waiting for an apology, waiting for them to wake up one day and realize what they did to you, waiting for them to finally say, "I was wrong, I hurt you, I should have done better." But deep down, you know that moment may never come. And even if it did, would it really change anything? Would it undo the pain, the sleepless nights, the moments you questioned your own worth? Some people will never give you the apology you deserve, not because they don't know they were wrong, but because their pride is bigger than their conscience. Because admitting fault means taking responsibility. And some people are simply not built to do that. They would rather pretend it never happened. They would rather shift the blame onto you, twist the narrative, act as if you were the problem just to avoid looking in the mirror. But you don't need an apology to heal. You don't need their words to validate your experience. The way they treated you was the truth, and the truth doesn't need confirmation. It was there in their actions, in the way they dismissed your feelings, in the way they made you feel small when all you ever did was show up for them. That was the apology in disguise. That was the moment you should have realized that nothing they could say now would erase what has already been done. So let go of the idea that healing comes from them making it right, because waiting for an apology that may never come only gives them more control over your peace, and they've already taken enough from you. Your closure is not in their words. It's in your decision to move on, knowing that their inability to apologize is not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their character. Words mean nothing without action. A person can tell you they care, that they respect you, that they value you, but if their actions don't match, then their words are empty. You don't judge a person by what they say when they need something from you, when they're trying to keep you around, when they're trying to save face. You judge them by how they show up when they have nothing to gain. Disrespect doesn't always come in loud, obvious ways. Sometimes it's in the small things. It's in the way they cancel on you last minute, but always seem to make time for others. It's in how they only reach out when they need something, but are nowhere to be found when you need them. It's in how they act like your feelings are too much, like your standards are unreasonable, like you should just be grateful for the little bit of attention they decide to give. And yet, when you confront them, they have the perfect words to explain it all away. But actions don't lie. If someone truly values you, they will treat you with care. They will be consistent. They will respect your time, your energy, and your boundaries. They won't make you feel like a burden for expecting the same level of effort that you give. And if someone constantly disregards your worth, if they treat you like an afterthought, if they make you feel like you have to fight for basic respect, that's not a mistake. That's a pattern. And patterns don't change with more chances, more conversations, or more waiting. At some point, you have to stop listening to what people say and start watching what they do. Because a person who truly cares won't put you in a position where you have to question their intentions. They won't leave you second-guessing their loyalty. They won't make you wonder if you're asking for too much just because you want to be treated with decency. And once you start seeing people for their actions instead of their words, you stop falling for the same cycle of disappointment. You stop giving endless chances to people who don't deserve them, and most importantly, you stop accepting less than you know you deserve. There comes a point when you have to stop waiting for people to change. Stop waiting for them to wake up and realize what they had in you. Stop waiting for them to finally treat you with the respect, love, and consideration you gave so freely. Because the longer you wait, the more you suffer. The longer you wait, the more you teach them that their behavior is acceptable. People don't change just because you hope they will. They change when they want to. They change when they see a reason to. And if someone has consistently disrespected you, dismissed your feelings, ignored your needs, and taken you for granted, then they have already shown you who they are. That's not a mistake. That's not a phase. That's who they choose to be. The hardest truth to accept is that some people do not care enough to do better. No amount of love, patience, or understanding will change a person who has no desire to change. No amount of explaining will make someone respect you if they don't see your worth on their own. And if someone only values you when they're about to lose you, that's not love, that's convenience. So how long will you keep holding on to the hope that one day they'll wake up and be different? How long will you keep waiting for a moment that may never come? You have to ask yourself, how much longer will you let their potential keep you stuck in a reality that is hurting you? At some point, you have to accept what is instead of clinging to what could be. You have to let go of the fantasy you've created in your mind, the idea that if you just love them harder, if you just wait a little longer, if you just give them one more chance, they will finally change. But that's not how life works, and that's not how respect works. You deserve someone who values you today, not someone who might value you someday. You deserve consistency, not occasional kindness when it's convenient for them. You deserve someone who doesn't need to lose you to appreciate you. And once you realize that, you stop waiting, you stop hoping for a different ending to a story that has already been written. You take your power back, you walk away, and you make room for the respect, love, and peace that you truly deserve. Walking away is not a weakness. It's not giving up. It's not quitting. It's recognizing that your worth is not up for debate. It's understanding that staying in a place where you are not respected does not make you strong. It only drains you. There is no prize for enduring disrespect. There is no reward for tolerating mistreatment in the hopes that one day it will turn into appreciation. You don't prove your value by staying. You prove it by leaving when you realize that someone is unwilling or incapable of giving you the respect you deserve. And that is one of the hardest lessons to learn. Because deep down, you want to believe that if you just love harder, if you just give more, if you just hold on a little longer, things will change. But they won't. And the longer you stay, the more you allow disrespect to become the norm. The people who truly care about you will never put you in a position where you have to question their respect for you. They won't make you feel like you have to prove your worth. They won't make you feel like loving them means tolerating pain. And if someone consistently makes you feel small, ignored, unimportant, or unworthy, then walking away is not just an option, it's a necessity. When you walk away from disrespect, you're not losing anything. You're gaining clarity. You're gaining peace. You're gaining the ability to be in spaces where you are truly valued. And yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will be difficult. Because you invested your time, your heart, your energy. You gave them chances, you believed in them. But at some point, you have to believe in yourself more. Walking away is not about them. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your dignity. It's about choosing your self-respect over their inconsistency. It's about deciding that you will no longer entertain relationships, friendships, or situations that force you to shrink yourself just to be tolerated. And once you take that step, you'll realize letting go of disrespect isn't the loss you thought it would be. It's the freedom you never knew you needed. Silence is an answer. Distance is a response. Disrespect is the closure. You don't need a long conversation. You don't need a dramatic goodbye. And you don't need them to suddenly see your worth. Their actions have already spoken. The way they treated you, that was your closure. The moment they dismissed your feelings, the moment they ignored your value, the moment they made you feel small, that was the answer you were looking for. Too often, we think closure comes with a final conversation, with some deep, heartfelt explanation that will make everything make sense. But the truth is, closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide for yourself. It's understanding that their behavior was all the proof you needed. It's recognizing that waiting for an apology, waiting for an acknowledgement, waiting for them to suddenly become a different person only keeps you stuck in a cycle that will never serve you. When someone disrespects you and shows no remorse, no effort to change, no willingness to make it right, that is your answer. That is your sign to stop looking for more. Because what more do you need to see? What more do you need them to do before you accept the truth? Every time you justify their actions, every time you make excuses for their behavior, every time you lower your standards just to keep them in your life, you are giving them permission to keep treating you the same way. Closure is not a conversation. It's not an apology. It's not a text that finally brings peace. Closure is a choice. A choice to stop reopening doors that only lead to pain. A choice to accept what they've already shown you. A choice to walk away, not because you wanted to, but because you finally respect yourself enough to. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to beg for clarity. You don't need to keep questioning why they couldn't treat you better. You just need to see what's already in front of you. Their actions were loud enough. Their silence was clear enough. Their disrespect was final enough. And when you finally accept that, you stop needing anything from them. Because the closure you were looking for was already given. It just didn't come in the form you expected. Respect is not something you should ever have to beg for. It's not a luxury. It's not a privilege given only to a select few. It is the bare minimum, the foundation of any healthy relationship, whether it's a friendship, a partnership, or even a family bond. And yet so many people tolerate disrespect because they believe that if they just prove themselves, if they just try harder, if they just give a little more, they will finally be treated the way they deserve. But respect does not work that way. A person who truly values you will respect you from the beginning. Not because you demanded it, not because you earned it, but because they understand that you are worthy of it, just as you are. They won't test your patience by constantly pushing your boundaries. They won't make you feel like you have to fight for their kindness. They won't act as if respecting you is some great favor they are doing for you. But the moment you start tolerating less, the moment you accept the bare minimum and call it love, the moment you excuse disrespect as just the way they are, you send a message that says, this is okay. Disrespect never starts loudly. It creeps in quietly. It starts with small things, an ignored message, a dismissive tone, a joke at your expense, a broken promise that never gets acknowledged. And each time you let it slide, each time you tell yourself it's not a big deal, it grows. It turns into them disregarding your feelings, making you feel like your standards are too high, treating you like an option while expecting you to treat them like a priority. By the time you realize how deep it has gone, you're already questioning your worth, already wondering if maybe you are asking for too much, already believing that this is just how love, friendship, or family works. But the truth is, you were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. You were expecting respect from someone who never intended to give it. You were pouring into someone who had no intention of pouring into you. And the hardest truth to accept is that if they truly cared, you wouldn't have to keep reminding them how to treat you. You wouldn't have to keep explaining why their behavior is hurtful. You wouldn't have to keep justifying your need for basic decency, because a person who values you will not make you question whether or not you are valued. So the real question is not whether they will ever change. The real question is, when will you stop accepting what you know deep down is beneath you? When will you stop making space for people who do not respect you? When will you decide that your peace, your dignity, and your self-worth are more important than keeping someone in your life who does not honor them? Because the moment you make that decision, everything changes. The moment you stop tolerating disrespect, you stop attracting it. The moment you raise your standards, you find yourself surrounded by people who naturally meet them. And most importantly, the moment you demand the respect you deserve, you realize you should have never had to ask for it in the first place. People reveal who they are not through their words, but through their actions. You don't need to overanalyze. You don't need to decode mixed signals. And you don't need to keep asking yourself if you're imagining things. If someone respects you, you will feel it. And if they don't, you will feel that too. Disrespect is never an accident. It is always a choice. A choice to disregard your feelings, a choice to push your boundaries, a choice to treat you in a way that makes you question your worth. And the hardest truth to accept is this: when someone repeatedly disrespects you, they know exactly what they are doing. They see your frustration, they hear your concerns, They are aware of how their behavior affects you, but they continue anyway, not because they don't understand, but because they don't care enough to change. So why do so many people stay? Because they hope. They hope that if they explain themselves just one more time, if they forgive just one more mistake, if they show enough love and patience, something will shift. They convince themselves that maybe the person doesn't know better, that maybe they're just stressed, that maybe deep down they do care, they just don't know how to show it. But that is an illusion. A person who truly values you will not need endless explanations to start treating you with basic respect. They will not need repeated reminders to consider your feelings. They will not put you in a position where you have to beg for the treatment that should have been a given from the start. The truth is, when someone disrespects you and shows no effort to make things right, they are making a statement about how little they regard you. And the longer you stay, the more you reinforce their belief that their actions are acceptable. But when you finally recognize that their behavior is not a misunderstanding, but a clear reflection of who they are, everything changes. You stop excusing, you stop explaining, and you start accepting the truth that was there all along. Their actions spoke loud enough. Respect is not something you convince someone to give you. It is something they offer willingly or not at all. And when someone repeatedly chooses to disregard your worth, you have only one choice left: to listen to what their actions are telling you and walk away with your dignity intact. Because at the end of the day, it was never about whether they could change. It was about whether you would keep tolerating what should have never been accepted in the first place. There comes a moment when you stop waiting. You stop waiting for an apology that will never come. You stop waiting for them to suddenly realize how much they hurt you. You stop waiting for them to change, to make things right, to finally become the person you kept believing they could be. And when that moment comes, it's not anger that fills you. It's not even sadness. It's clarity. Clarity that you were holding on to something that was never holding on to you. Clarity that their actions were the closure you needed all along. Clarity that you were never asking for too much, you were just asking the wrong person. And that clarity, as painful as it is, sets you free. Because the truth is, you don't need them to tell you why they did what they did. You don't need them to sit down and give you an explanation that makes sense. You don't need them to recognize their mistakes or acknowledge your pain. Their actions already told you everything you needed to know. Their silence was their answer. Their neglect was their response. Their disrespect was the final word. So what do you do now? You stop looking back. You stop replaying the memories, searching for a moment that could have changed everything. You stop holding on to the version of them you created in your mind. And most importantly, you stop questioning yourself, wondering if you did enough, if you could have fixed it, if maybe, just maybe, you should have tried harder. Because the truth is, it was never about what you did or didn't do. It was about who they chose to be. And now it's about who you choose to be. Do you choose to keep carrying the weight of their disrespect? Do you choose to let their actions define how you see yourself? Or do you choose to finally walk away, not with bitterness, not with regret, but with the quiet strength of someone who knows their worth? Because that's what closure really is. It's not about getting answers from them. It's about giving yourself the answer. It's about deciding that you will no longer entertain what drains you, that you will no longer accept what diminishes you, that you will no longer make room for people who do not honor you. And when you make that decision, when you choose to walk away with your head held high, without looking back, without second guessing, something shifts. You reclaim your power, you take back control, and you realize that the closure you were searching for was never in their words, never in their apology, never in their acknowledgement. It was in the moment you finally decided that you deserved better. And that in itself was enough. You don't need their apology to move on. You don't need their recognition to heal. You don't need their validation to know your worth. Their actions were all the closure you ever needed. The moment they disrespected you without remorse, the moment they disregarded your value without hesitation, that was the moment you had your answer. And now the choice is yours. Will you keep waiting for something that will never come? Or will you walk away with the strength of someone who finally sees the truth? Because real closure isn't found in their words. It's found in your decision to let go. It's found in choosing yourself over someone who refused to choose you. It's found in knowing that your peace, your self-respect, and your happiness are worth more than holding on to someone who never truly held on to you. So step forward, walk away from what no longer serves you, carry your head high, knowing that you are not leaving behind something valuable, you are leaving behind what was holding you back. And in that decision, in that moment, you are free.